Hi everyone, welcome to AGA Sessions number 9. Our guest today is Jeff Turco, an architect and senior lecturer. I'll just add him in.
Hi, Amos.
Hi Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm all right. It's the first time I've done one of these things, so, take me through it gently.
Okay. I hope the connection stays. So just a brief introduction. Jeff and I met 27 years ago, I think, Jeff.
Really? Is it
Yeah,
27 years?
I think so. So we met at first year at the Architectural Association, and remained very good friends and colleagues. So yeah, like I said, Jeff is an architect from Necton, and he's also a senior lecturer at Brighton University. And yesterday we interviewed Ali Montero, as a Part 1 student, so I thought it would be a nice comparison to get another perspective from the other side. So we'll speak a bit about architectural education, especially in the face of COVID, but then maybe also talk about architecture in general and where we're heading. So Jeff, maybe you can quickly introduce yourself if you want to add anything to what I've said.
Yeah. I'll be happy to, Amos. So Jeff Turco, almost said a lot already. I'm an architect registered over in Europe to practice. I'm an American, so I grew up for the first half of my life in the U.S. I've been an academic, full-time academic for the past 10 years, but I started my academic career in 1999. After studying at the AA, I taught there for a little bit, then moved on to East London University, taught there for 10 years. Then I spent a bit more time at the AA teaching a diploma unit with Holger Kenne from Plasma Studio. That was a really fantastic time. I also dabbled a bit in some of the visiting school programs for the AA. I established the Sydney Visiting School down in Australia, and that ran for about 3 or 4 years. And then after that, established the Melbourne Visiting School for the AA. And I ran that successfully for about 3 years. And then I've had to take on a bit more at the institution where I am now, which is the University of Brighton. Now am the course leader of the Masters of Architecture program there. Okay, and what other things have I done? I'm also, in addition to doing my own kind of practice, Necton Studio, I'm also part of the collaborative architectural collective called Ocean, and have been involved in a number of their projects over the years. And we're still doing a few other things that hopefully will come out soon enough.
And James Hamilton just mentioned that you're also a skateboarder.
Yes, I am. Thanks, James. Just yeah. So this is what I do in my free time. Anyway, yeah. So, in order to kind of be an architect, you need to hit the streets.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So, what was it like to be faced with COVID towards the end of the academic year? Must have been challenging and on many levels.
Well, that was the term I was thinking about the questions when you said it. And I just thought, I think challenging is the term. Yeah, that is what it was. We had many things that we needed to make decisions on very rapidly. Like, if we were supposed to, this was before the government said anything or the university said anything officially. I think a lot of the course leaders and even students, we were having these discussions, like what's going to happen. And it also happened at the moment in time in the year where we're just about to have our reviews before going on Easter break. So that would also then include people coming down from London or from other parts of the surrounding area to come in, and they were canceling, and so it just started to implode at that moment. But then it moved into a different kinds of challenges, which was less about like what, how do we halt everything. It was more like how do we continue and get through this academic year.
So how did you have to adapt? Did you have
Well,
to did
well,
you have to change your style of teaching?
well, no,
Obviously, it's
teaching
not.
styles. I don't think the teaching styles really get affected that much. It's just the method in which we kind of engage with everyone. So we had to do like what we're doing now. This is how everything kind of shifted. Instead of doing, of course, an Instagram chat, we moved to Skype or Teams or I can't remember the other one. There's so many different versions to communicate, but we moved quickly to that. That had its own challenges. Challenges more to do with the infrastructure that we all have. It really made, I think, everyone really think, especially going into this academic year, I need to have my broadband connection needs to be really stable so that I can communicate. So it really became an infrastructural question. Some students were really affected by it, especially those that went back to their home countries. So we had a few students that went back to Egypt and other part in China and these places, and the internet connections were not stable enough to have let's just say, just even have an uninterrupted conversation was very difficult. Okay, so if you then compound that with trying to also upload and download files in real time, or to look through a kind of digital model or animation, that became difficult on the delivery. That said, it's like it was really good that we had that, because I think going into this academic year, we're a bit more aware of what we need. And we have also learned that patience is like one of the key elements, because we can be as prescriptive as we want on paper, but it's the actual delivery where everything kind of changes, and you need to just be very flexible and understanding as well. I mean, those were the other things that kind of came up with the delivery. It's people being by themselves in their flat, for long periods of time and not interacting. And for some, this became the way of connecting. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Do you feel that maybe you need to provide an extra level of support maybe for students because they work on their own at home, mental support, or?
Yeah, I think that I mean it's I think that's what we tried to do at that time. And I think that's helped us kind of prepare a little bit more for this academic year. But I think it's just to be available. Yeah. It's to just be available and to be willing to discuss whatever they want. And then, I mean, there are other mechanisms that the universities have, student support tutors and support mechanisms like that. But it's really also just being able to allow whatever communication to take place whenever it's needed.
Yeah, that's very
important. I would say that the students need that, the staff need that as well. It's an extremely important element about it. Yeah.
So in terms of student assessments, I mean, I kind of remember the juries that we used to have at the A. I mean, are they now running all online? Is there similar interaction between the students and the guest jurors? Is it working? Is it not working?
Well, first off, we haven't actually been able to do any juries yet. We haven't tested that one out. But the intention is that all of those things will happen. It'll just have to happen in a kind of virtual environment. Yeah. I mean, I was very lucky. I got invited to take part in a online review last academic year in Hong Kong, from down here in Brighton, and that worked really well. So you had people also taking part in Singapore and other parts of the world all at that time, and engaging directly with the students' work. It's just that it's done through the digital interface, and that was really eye-opening. and I'm hoping we're all going to be tapping into that this year so that we can actually bring in more people. Because typically, if we do it face to face down here at Brighton, we need to kind of get people to come down from London or from other parts, in order to kind of maybe offer something outside of the local conversations, and then that kind of begins to kind of cost people money and time. It's not as easy as being up in London where you can kind of get someone to come in for just a couple of hours, and that's not going to affect their workday. But I think now with using the digital interface, that'll make it a lot more lucrative and easier. I'm kind of looking forward to it. But you'll have to come back to me and I'll tell you how it works out later this year. But maybe just to kind of add to that, what we initiated last year, at the beginning of last year, in the master's program only, was that in order to begin to shake up, excuse me, the kind of typical, production over the year, I decided to, along with my colleagues, we decided to initiate the paperless studio environment again. So to go back to Bernard Tschumi's aim in the 90s, in Colombia, where they were trying to push a kind of using digital tools. We said, let's just go back to that. The studio will save students money. They don't need to print, or they can print less. We can begin to embrace the technology that's right in their hand, like our phones, a bit more. And it just happened to work out in a fluke way that then all of a sudden we had to go to remote, and then any paper, anything was just completely out the door. And so this year, we were just initiating that once again. And we think that will also work well with the kind of digital reviews we have. I mean, assessments and things like that, like review tables. Yeah, that's another story. But we kind of were pushed into that abruptly last year. But in order to kind of have parity, we decided that everyone could then submit a digital portfolio, a PDF, and they could submit as many as they wanted to. Yeah. And then alongside that, we asked them to produce a 10-minute pre-recorded presentation of their work. Okay. And the reason why we asked for something pre-recorded as opposed to doing something live like this is that we were trying to minimize anyone having failure in mid-presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in the end, it worked out really well. And I think it's a format that we should all really embrace, because it asks the student really through that format to be really precise. They don't have to fluff. They can rehearse. They can practice. They can, they're doing like a really proper pitch. And you can actually see some of the work that they've done on the University of Brighton end of year show site. Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm sure if the Reba Metal site's up, you might be able to catch one or two of the MR2 projects up on there.
Great. Just give a shout out to our friend Martin Costa, who joined from India. Studied with us.
Right.
Yeah.
Martin.
Yeah. Hi, Martin. Good to see you here. Has the COVID affected at all the student intake at university, kind of numbers and composition?
Well, yeah. Yes, it has. It has affected the intake. I'm not 100% on the kind of percentages and numbers on that, and I'd hate to kind of say anything that was going to be recorded and then have it come back to get me. But there's already been a kind of a downward trend, a little bit of a downward trend in student numbers. And then this year, it's just been all over the shop, completely all over the shop. I would say that it has affected the student numbers, and it affected their confidence. Early on, I would say their confidence, because I think back in July, we had half of the number of students that we would normally have already accepted, and it was getting very tense. But everything's kind of pretty much recovered, and began to recover quite late. In fact, I was interviewing students last week to come onto the course. and everyone's affected by different things, but most of the ones that were applying very late, they were just delayed in getting their marks from their other institutions on their degree. Yeah, and because of that, that just had a long knock-on effect with them getting in and applying. But the numbers have recovered. I think we're down about 4 or 5 students than we were on the previous year. So we did recover quite okay. I think the undergraduate took a big hit because of all the government marking and all that with the A levels, and that sent a big tide. But I think even they've recovered. Like I think with the overseas students, that there's a lot less overseas students than we would normally have.
Yeah.
But I think the home and EU students is kind of about right. Yeah.
Good. I see some other familiar faces here. Architects Independent. I think that's Mesa and Tom.
Oh, yeah. I hear they're really doing fantastic stuff down in Dover.
Yeah, they're saying pre-recording. What a brilliant idea. Guys, if you have any questions, please post them. Now, Jeff, obviously, COVID has affected everyone, and it's affecting how we see kind of architecture, how we see our home, how we see cities. So do you think architecture is changing or needs to change because of COVID, and also maybe the way it is being taught? I guess kind of where our well-being is becoming very important. Is that a subject, for instance, which you discuss or?
Yeah, we discuss it all the time. I'm always willing to discuss these things, but that's a whole bunch of questions. Let's just start with first of all, should architecture change? Yes, it should. Yeah. It's I've got my own opinions about it. I think that we've really missed some criticality, haven't we? Yeah. Like a critical discourse. Yeah. I'm hoping that maybe that's one thing that comes out of the current political and health crisis that we're in, is that we all become a little bit more critical and aware of what we're doing individually, but what we're also doing collectively. And we use these tools and devices that we're now using to communicate more regularly in order to kind of facilitate that. As far as architectural education, yeah, that definitely needs to change. It's kind of funny how making this change to kind of pick up something that Tschumi was trying to do 20 years ago and to repitch it to the students again, how it's worked out to our benefit. Yeah, all of our benefits. Yeah, we're by saying we're going fully digital within how we're kind of going to be assessing the work, how we're going to be allowing the students to engage with things. It makes it so much easier. Yeah, there's always going to be those, the student needs to learn how to draw a plan and do these things. Yes. That goes without saying. There needs to be a kind of core and fundamental understanding of the tools that we use. But we need to embrace this technology for not just for kind of commercial gain, which is how it's really being used now, but just as a way of kind of communicating and sharing ideas and becoming more aware, about each other.
Yeah. Good. So,
well, there was more in that question. It's just that it was so.
Yeah,
sorry,
there was more. It was kind of one of the big questions that probably. We could probably have another whole session just about that. Yeah.
But what was the other? What was the kind of last part of that question? Because it's a kind of with how COVID is going to change things, and I can't remember the.
Well, how is architecture going to change because of COVID and also the way it's taught. I mean, we kind of discussed already some of the implications. But yeah, like you said, I mean, there's a lot of issues that we're facing now that gonna have an impact on how we live and how we work. I mean, there's already seems to be a movement away from maybe open plan offices and open plan in general. But for instance, for us,
there is a shift away from open plan. However, I think maybe in the office. I mean, you probably know best from the kind of office and practice point of view. But I was just in the university yesterday, and it's the biggest open plan space ever. Of course, now it kind of looks like a bit of like a call center, yet with perspex dividers everywhere, or and everything's at a 2-meter regimented interval, and I think we just need to see how it's going to kind of work out. And speaking with
it might go back to those kind of 70s cubicles or something similar.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's great. I just remembered the scene from The Matrix in the cubicles running away. I think that's what it's going to be like from now on. We're just going to be running away from the agents.
Yeah.
But I mean, how is it? How are you hand managing that at your studio?
We're fine. We've been back for about a month, but now the team wants to go back working from home, which is a shame. Well, it's understandable. It was fun to be back together after about 4 months. We were all working from home, but safety is first. We haven't really stopped since lockdown. We've been actually really, really busy, which is good.
Yeah. No, it is good.
Just giving a shout out if anyone has any questions for Jeff. We've been discussing architecture and architectural education. Jeff, thank you very much for being a guest today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Do you want to say something as a conclusion or thoughts or?
I was just trying to think of. Well, maybe to kind of just so that we don't just kind of end right now. Just what kind of coming from your kind of side of things of being fully in practice. I'm curious to know like what your thoughts are on the discipline, and where do you think things are going, or how do you think things should change?
Good question, and another big question. Well, we're seeing most of our work is in the private residential, and I guess people are spending more time at home, and then that are not really working for them in this new normality, and then wanting to change that, and now that they kind of have time to do so. So we're definitely seeing an increase in inquiries and people kind of going ahead with projects, and more and more people are going to be working from home, so they need to have the right kind of facilities at home, either if it's within the house or if they're able to construct maybe a garden studio at the back of their garden. So
yeah,
yeah, there's definitely changes there. Yeah, I think the current climate and political climate will definitely have an impact on architecture and urban design, which is something that we're starting to see.
Oh, really? So what are the? I'm curious to know, like, what are the trends that that you're seeing within from your kind of viewpoint on the discipline? Or more people moving out of urban areas, or?
Well, I haven't noticed kind of within our clients, but I know that those that can perhaps are looking at moving out of London, yeah, to the countryside, and I know of a few that have done it. But those that are here, it's really kind of they reassessing their homes, and kind of their mental well-being is becoming a factor in how architecture can improve their life, which is part of kind of our kind of ethos, because I think us architects and designers have we can change people's lives in a positive way, and whether it's through space planning or the choice of materials and color, and there's a lot of things. Jeff, so we're getting a few questions.
Yeah.
What competitions are you working on, Jeff? From James Hamilton.
Well, not working on anything at the moment. Did take part in a little competition with my colleagues at Ocean over the summer. That was a lot of fun. It's been a while since we've actually had the time to sit down and kind of jam, so to speak, on something. What we're in right now is just post-production, and I think that what we're trying to do is, in the climate of everything kind of being a bit calm, we're just trying to kind of gain some ground up again. And so that's what we're just looking for things, doing post-production, maybe trying to kind of ask different questions. I'm not entirely sure if I want to reveal what those questions are right now, but also just looking at the world and seeing how as architects we can best apply them, and using the design competitions as an outlet for that. Yeah. I think what you said almost is really, really interesting about the kind of people's well-being being a kind of core element to kind of then work with. Yeah, and I think that just to give some insight what we're planning within my design studio this year is we're looking at social condenser projects as a building typology. This is a kind of constructivist programmatic ideal that's looking at human well-being, health, and these sorts of mechanisms. Maybe it's just one of those things that's come out of COVID that's kind of coming to the forefront. I mean, we're looking at that because it's about 100 years since that type has been kind of discussed or kind of came into being, and it's just we're looking to kind of update that. I kind of have a hunch that in the future, and actually I think you're confirming that with your issues, that projects that take on board a broader social concern is really important. However, I think the difference being is that our concerns as architects is so. I mean, the problem is that we're so human-centric about everything that we kind of end up not really giving too much of a toss to any other kind of ecology or species that's out there. So I think what we're trying to do within the studio this year is to bring on board a broader range of like what the social milieu is, and what other conditions we can kind of begin to bring into a social condenser. Like, what's the social condenser for now? The social condenser that kind of begins to provide support for into that. And just within the design studio.
Good. No, it's really interesting.
Yeah.
Architects Independent are asking, are there things, activities that you believe need us to be physically present, maybe regarding the fabrication of artifacts, thinking through making type of engagement, etc.?
In the design studio environment, I kind of presume that you mean.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really the challenge this year. That's really the challenge, I think, this year for at least us. I mean, we still have workshops available, and the studios are still open, but on selected days where it's there for students to get into making a bit more. It's just that the taps are turned down very low on that being at the forefront. And in a sense, it's really kind of maybe going to trigger tutors to just rethink how that fits in, because you just not going to be able to go into the workshop like you normally would and just kind of, I need to use this drill, that drill. You're going to have to book a space, book a time, or you're going to have to hand it over to a technician to do it. And when you're kind of competing with 100 to 200 other people to try and get that one technician, that's going to change things. So I think that we'll just need to kind of move into other types of making. I think that we need to kind of maybe view everything that we can do digitally, whether it's through augmented reality or virtual reality, is also part of that making. Yeah. And to just try to kind of use other interfaces that maybe allow you to have haptic interaction or other visual interactions in order to kind of like bring that into a kind of real and present thing, or the nature of artifacts is just going to have to up its game a bit more. Digital
Jeff,
artifacts.
Yes. Well, thanks very much, Jeff.
It's been my pleasure.
Thanks everyone who joined us. This recording will be available on our Instagram TV later today, so you can catch up.
Yeah.
And you can also follow Jeff and follow the work of his students. Good to see you, Jeff. And hopefully we can physically see each other soon.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah.
I do. I'm glad we have these devices to do this. I'm also glad to kind of see a few, familiar faces and names and a few questions from dear friends. Yeah, I miss everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it's all done, this COVID thing, come on down to Brighton for a visit, please.
I will, definitely.
All right.
All right. So send my regards to the family.
Yeah, and to yours too, and to all my friends and family out there as well. Much love, everybody.
Okay. Bye, Jeff.
All right. Ciao. Bye-bye.
Ciao.